I've been asked to talk about FDA incentives, and so I'll talk about orphan drug-related incentives and other FDA incentives that are available, uh, even to non-orphan drugs, but since many orphan drugs qualify, it may be of interest to those sponsors that have orphan drugs. So the orphan products related incentives, Erica's already reviewed the grants program with you. This is just a reminder that you don't have to be orphan designated, but you do need to make the case that the product for which you're requesting grant to money to study needs to treat or diagnose a disease that affects fewer than 200,000 people in the United States. The following are those those incentives that are associated with orphan drug designation. So you get tax credits for equal to 50% of the clinical trial costs. These can be applied to the federal taxes incurred for 1 year prior or up to 20 years going forward. And these tax breaks are administered by the Internal Revenue Service, and they have to be requested. The marketing application user fee waiver. This is also known as the PDUFA fee. As Jim told you earlier, we're now up to $2.17 million per drug that you request marketing application for. And as you can see, over the last 3 years, it's steadily increased, and we expect it to continue to increase it over time. So to get orphan drug exclusivity, you have to receive orphan drug designation. And if you're the first sponsor to be approved for that indication, for that active moiety, you get 7 years of marketing exclusivity. And the FDA cannot approve the same drug for the same indication during the exclusivity period. So if a sponsor comes in requesting a marketing application for the same drug for an already approved drug, and they've been designated, that means they must have been designated under providing a plausible hypothesis of clinical superiority, either greater safety, greater efficacy, or have made an argument that they make a major contribution to patient care. And then once they get marketing approval, they need to demonstrate their clinical superiority. So if the orphan drug designation is based on a plausible hypothesis of clinical superiority, then they must demonstrate that at the time of marketing approval, and this may require head-to-head trials, but it doesn't always. Some examples of where head-to-head trials were not needed to provide marketing exclusivity is under safety. We had a Japanese encephalitis vaccine. The original vaccine had a gelatin stabilizer, and there were reports of anaphylactic shock. The subsequent product was a Japanese encephalitis vaccine with no stabilizer and had data to show that it did not have episodes of anaphylactic shock, and so it was granted orphan drug designation based on greater safety and got its marketing approval on that basis. Changing a salt to or an ester, glycerol phenylbutyrate versus sodium phenylbutyrate. Sodium phenylbutyrate was on the market. It had 2.5 grams of sodium. There were issues with congestive heart failure and fluid retention. The glycerol phenylbutyrate has 0 sodium, so those issues were not part of the side effect profile. And again, it got designated based on that and marketing exclusivity. Recombinants, the Office of Orphan Products considers recombinant products de facto superior to plasma-derived products. For efficacy, head-to-head trials are generally needed, and they're rarely done. So this is, if you're going to get marketing exclusivity based on efficacy, you can pretty much count on having to provide head-to-head trials against the original drug. If orphan drug designation is based on major contribution of patient care and you come to market, you will get your exclusivity. And 2 examples are an oral formulation of an IV drug where only the intravenous drug is available. That's in our preamble, and so if the next drug that comes along is an oral preparation, it will get its marketing exclusivity. Cysteamine enteric-coated, which was a 12-hour drug. The original was a 6-hour drug, which was not enteric-coated. And they got orphan drug designated and marketing approval based on the fact that if the 6-hour preparation was not taken every 6 hours, there was a drop-off in therapeutic effect, and there was data to show that. And so that drug got, the enteric-coated drug got designated and approved based on a major contribution of patient care based on that data. Now we'll talk about other FDA incentives that are not monitored or administered by the Office of Orphan Products, but these are other incentives that may be helpful to you. The Rare Pediatric Disease Priority Review Voucher. This was created under FDASIA in 2012, and it was proposed to try to improve treatments for rare pediatric diseases. So the bottom line is, if a sponsor receives approval of a rare pediatric disease product application for a rare pediatric disease, they are able to receive a priority review voucher, which they can then use to have another drug that would not qualify for priority review reviewed under the priority review system. So what is a rare pediatric disease? It primarily affects individuals from birth to 18, and it's a rare disease or condition which by definition in the United States, it affects fewer than 200,000 persons. The Rare Pediatric Disease Product Application, this is what goes to the review division, must be a new molecular entity. It's got to be eligible for priority review. It relies on clinical data from studies in a pediatric population. You cannot use studies from an adult population. And it does not seek approval for an adult indication. So there's two components. One is designation as a rare pediatric disease, which is done through our office, although this is voluntary, and it is not a prerequisite for getting the PRV, but we are the ones that do that designation should that application be made. And then determination of voucher eligibility, that is done through the review division, either CDER or CBER. And if a designation as a rare pediatric disease has not been sought, then our office is consulted by CBER or CDER to determine if the disease is considered to be a rare pediatric disease. There is a sunset provision to this, and that sunset provision is that after the third pediatric voucher has been issued, the program will expire in 1 year after that, from that date, unless Congress renews it. However, more vouchers can be given out during that year prior to the expiration. To date, we've had 5 rare pediatric disease designation requests. We've designated 3, and there's been 1 voucher that's been issued, and that's for L-sulfatase alpha for the treatment of Morquio-A syndrome. The Tropical Disease Voucher, Priority Review Voucher Program, which is similar to the Pediatric Rare Disease Voucher, was created in 2007 under FDA, and that was created to try to improve treatment for tropical diseases. These are not limited to rare diseases, however, most tropical diseases are rare in the United States. So if a sponsor receives approval of a tropical disease product application for a tropical disease, that sponsor is eligible to receive a priority review voucher, which can again be used for another drug that may not qualify for priority review. So here's some key differences and similarities between the tropical disease priority review voucher and the pediatric rare disease. The biggest difference is that there is a list of tropical diseases that qualify. The similarities are NME and eligible for priority review. And this is the list of tropical diseases. Diseases can be added to this list, but this is done by rulemaking, which works at a glacial pace. This is just for your information about the similarities and differences between the Pediatric Rare Disease Program and the Tropical Disease Priority Review Voucher Program. To date, there have been 2 Tropical Disease Priority Review Vouchers issued. One was for the treatment of malaria and the other for tuberculosis. Another incentive which is new is generating antibiotic incentives now, or GAIN. This was created under FDASIA, and it was to encourage the development of antibacterial and antifungal treatments for the treatment of serious or life-threatening infections. And an eligible product is granted qualified infectious disease product designation. That designation comes from the review division, and that needs to be sought through the review division wherever your IND or BLA is being administered. The incentives with GAIN are you can get an additional 5 years of exclusivity, you get priority review, and you may be eligible for fast track designation. That designation also goes through the review divisions. And finally, the breakthrough therapy designation. This was also created in FDASIA, and this was to expedite the development of breakthrough therapies. Basically, what the review division is looking for here are game changers to therapy. So the criteria are that the drug is intended to treat a serious or life-threatening condition and preliminary clinical evidence. So you've got to have clinical evidence. Preclinical data is not helpful here for this designation. Indicates that the drug may demonstrate substantial improvement on one or more clinically significant endpoints over currently available therapies. So what does being breakthrough therapy designated get you? It gives you intensive guidance from the higher-ups at the FDA in the review division. It gives you approval based on an effective surrogate or intermediate clinical endpoint that is reasonably likely to predict the drug's clinical benefit. And it gives you the priority review, the shorter clock, the 6-month review clock versus the 10-month review clock for your application. It should be noted, though, that designation may be withdrawn if it no longer meets breakthrough therapy qualifying criteria. So during the process, if something better comes along, your breakthrough therapy designation may go away, and then you would no longer qualify for the priority review clock. I've listed some contact information. Jim Bonna is in our office, and he's the contact person for the Rare Pediatric Disease Voucher Program. Rachel Hartford, the enrichment and enhanced communication person, she's the person you would go to for other programs in the review division, such as GAIN and the Tropical Disease Voucher Program. And then the breakthrough therapy designation, the leads for those, each in CEDAR and CBER, are listed here. Thank you very much.